Welcome back to Why Is This a Podcast? I'm your host, Kieran Watts. Stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands. When it's your turn, get the vaccine for COVID-19. And thank you for joining. I hope you're well. I hope your family and friends are well. And hopefully, we're going to come out of this soon. Since I recorded last, a lot has obviously happened. Um, just today, on the day that I'm recording this, I learned of the discovery of 751 unmarked graves at the site of a former uh, residential school in Saskatchewan in Canada. The second time this year that such a discovery has been made in Canada. 251 unmarked graves were discovered at the site of a school last month, which is obviously tragic, and hopefully we get answers soon. There was also the collapse of a tower of apartments in Miami, Florida. At the time we're taping this, at least 9 people have been killed and more than 150 are missing. Um, those figures are likely to change by the time this goes live. I hope that they don't change for the worst. For the worst, I hope that people are found, people are rescued. I hope that there are no more fatalities. But for those who are injured, for those who have lost loved ones, obviously we extend our best wishes to them. And also, a UN report has been leaked to AFP News, or AFP News has come across it some way, regarding the climate crisis, which has found, and I'm quoting here, that by 2050, tens of millions are at risk of being subject to chronic hunger in the next decade. Um, Extreme poverty could affect 130 more people worldwide. And even if we do make progress with curbing planet warming greenhouse gas emissions, dangerous thresholds are closer than once thought, and dire consequences stemming from decades of unbridled carbon pollution are unavoidable in the short term. Then there's also the ongoing plague. So, to cut a long story short, it's a truly wonderful time to be alive. But in the greatest possible sincerity, um, if you can afford to, as I say fairly often on this show, if you can afford to donate to charities which support those in need, whether it's hunger or homelessness or the environment, please do. And to talk about charity fundraising, I do just want to mention my friend and yours, Sam Cadwallader, my most recent guest, um, who wanted to raise £300 for Prostate Cancer UK. Sam and I spoke about it last time, what it means to him, and you can find that interview on YouTube. And I just want to say congratulations to Sam for not only meeting his target of £300, but actually exceeding it. He's raised, at the time we're taping this, 120% of his target. He's raised £360, and the campaign's still ongoing. But Sam, congratulations, well done. We love you, and well done for what you're doing. And if you can afford to donate to Prostate Cancer UK and Sam's um, really worthy campaign, please do consider it. And Sam, I look forward to speaking to you again. And I know that part of your fundraiser is that you're going to be shaving your head and waxing your legs. So I offer you my commiserations in advance for the pain. But well done, my friends. Really proud of you. Now back to the plague. COVID-19 pandemic has obviously affected us all, but we do have a lifeline in terms of vaccines. And what better person, because I have to talk about this for this episode, than an infectious diseases and vaccine expert, Dr. Joël Calmet, who is my guest today, and he joins me now. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Karen, for the invitation. I'm glad to be there.
Thank you for coming on. Where in the world are you zooming in from, for people who don't know?
Sorry, I am currently based in France, in Lyon, but I was traveling a bit across Europe. But with the recent episode, I'm almost stuck at home, as everybody, I suppose.
The second time I've interviewed you one-on-one, I interviewed you previously for Health Issues India.
Oh, yes.
And of course, we participated in a few podcast discussions together, but it's the first time you've been on this program. So welcome. It's really lovely to have you. I wanted to sort of jump straight into COVID-19 with you, because it's, as I mentioned, you're a public health expert. You've spent years in the field. Have you ever experienced a moment like this?
Oh, no.
Like this pandemic? In your years working in public health?
It's absolutely unique, Karen, in many ways. There is first the fact that the response in terms of detection, identification of the virus, collaboration of various health authorities across the globe, development of various tools against the virus, including several vaccines, is absolutely unique in such a short period of time. It may appear that it is long, but in fact, regarding the usual cycles of the vaccine production, it's absolutely unmatched historically. So just that is unique. But to have this response at the global level is also quite unique. We had some example in the past of mobilization for the development of the vaccine, either globally, but more frequently at the regional level. That was significant, but not to that scale, and not for such a short period of time. So yes, what we see is absolutely unique in history.
You've sort of preempted me, because I wanted to ask you, because vaccine hesitancy is obviously a huge problem that we've got, not just in terms of COVID-19, but also in terms of other vaccines against various infectious conditions. But I do want to sort of just stick on COVID at the moment, because the one thing that I think a lot of us hear from vaccine skeptics, or however we characterize them, is sort of this argument of, how did we manage to get all these vaccines developed so quickly, when HIV, for example, it's been about 40 plus years we've not got a vaccine, and we've got these COVID-19 vaccines in such a comparatively short period of time. What do you say to those people who ask those kinds of questions?
Yes, in fact, it's multifactorial. The first one is that we are somewhere lucky that it was not a difficult vaccine to develop, and this is unfortunately pure matter of chance. Either it's feasible and it's accessible, or it's not. And in the case of HIV, the variation, the genetic variation of the different HIV viruses are so wide, and that it would represent almost exactly the same than to develop a vaccine for all bacteria at the same time. So this is why it's not the same challenge. So first of all, the challenge was accessible, and I think this is the main one. The second is that with the progress of technology today, we have now access to the mRNA technology, and this was a really absolutely instrumental in the fact that prototype vaccine could have been designed in a very short period of time, where usually it can take months or years sometimes. So this was a part of the savings.
And it's also the fact that, speaking as somebody who's not from a scientific background, this is we call it coronavirus, but it's SARS-CoV-2.
Yeah.
So obviously we've had similar viruses like this before, and we've been sort of preparing, or the scientific community has been preparing for vaccine for an outbreak like this, knowing that there's a fairly good chance that
we capitalize on the existing sum of knowledge and experience accumulated in the past in terms of coronaviruses, in terms of interaction between coronaviruses and various species, including the human species. You have also the fact that the network and the sharing of information in terms of detection, virus circulation has never been so optimized. So I think we are benefiting from the past investments in terms of science and knowledge. Now we have access to a new technology which represents really a jump, really a breakthrough in terms of designing vaccine prototypes. And there is some other positive factors which were able to speed up the process. One of them, that as it was a pandemic, the recruitment, even for enormous birth cohorts, because all the vaccines which are licensed today have passed phase 3, which enrolled more than 30,000 patients each, which cumulatively is absolutely enormous because it exceeds certainly 1 billion person. So it's really enormous. And the last part is really the massive effort from the health authority side in terms of reviewing the files, which benefited for the full priority, where sometimes you can wait and waste some months here and there because there is a lot of other priorities as well on a normal mode. So we benefited of all possible accelerators, and that's why we were lucky enough to have these tools to soon enough, I would say, because it was almost 1 year, which was once again never ever seen. So it's really, on that side, it's a piece of luck.
So basically, don't worry about the fact that it was so quick.
No, yes, because when you look at the experience, the clinical experience, the cumulative clinical experience for each vaccine, it is about almost the same at the before licensure than the normal procedure. It has been accelerated, but the quantities of enrollees is approximately the same according to the higher standards. The experience now in terms of in-market life of the vaccine is among the highest of any vaccine given even historically, because we exceed, I must say, 1 billion doses used. So with the experience cumulative is enormous. And the sharing of experience and data among all health authorities is bigger than ever. So I think we have a pretty good understanding of the profile of the vaccines. having said so, I can say that there is I have possibly a different position than what is commonly said on the media. I think that the safety of the vaccine is really always relative to comparison. In the case of the COVID vaccines, the safety is relatively good as compared to the disease. But it's not perfect as such.
No.
This is vaccine where we have certainly to be careful and to investigate because there is side effects. And it's this balance between benefits and risk will have to be reviewed constantly in order to be sure that you use them up in the optimal way.
Because of course you don't want to be lax.
Exactly.
You don't want, and I think this is what people outside of the public health community, what some people perhaps don't appreciate, is that it's evolving. It's an evolving discipline.
First of all, it's evolving.
You've got to keep your eye on it, and it's sort of like not saying. I've heard somebody say to me once, science is never 100%.
Yeah, and it is
it's always about a risk, a risk-benefit analysis.
Yeah, and the situation, the epidemiological situation is evolving as well, which means that the performance of the vaccine have been tested on the first generation of virus. We are now in the third or fourth, and the ratio may be different and has to be reviewed. But what could be explained as well is that this debate is constantly addressed by all health authorities periodically. There is a strong perception that these vaccines are possibly not a final version because it's not a final version of the virus. So the contract and the relative benefit risk will have to be reviewed permanently up to the point where we may have to change the vaccine in order to optimize this ratio and serve the community better.
I want to go on to sort of onto variants, because there's been a number of them now. There's the Delta variant and Delta Plus variant, because the variant which originated in Brazil and South Africa, and I know that people are concerned about did the vaccine, because I've had my first vaccination against COVID-19. I'm waiting to have my second. But I know people who have had they're either double jabbed or they've had their first, and they're like, with these new variants coming out, did the vaccine that I had, is that going to protect me against these new variants? What can you say regarding that?
Purely scientifically speaking, the objective response should be we must measure it constantly, which means that there is no speculation to be.
You understand, doctor, that that's not going to reassure many people.
But unfortunately, it's true. But what can be said speculatively, if we look at the evolution, is that it will certainly protect for a lesser part, but certainly to a big part.
Which is what I've seen is sort of the research says that the efficacy may be somewhat lower, but
exactly.
it's still robust, it's still strong, and it's still worth getting the jab.
Exactly. And there is two dimensions, as usual in vaccines. You have the qualitative and the quantitative aspects, which means that if your qualitative aspects is diminishing, it may be compensated by the quantitative, meaning that if with the existing vaccine, we could be in the position to have a third dose in fall,
A
in
booster
order
shot.
to increase the number of circulating antibodies in order to improve the protection, or to change the vaccine if needed and if we have the time. But anyway, there is still a large part of protection provided by the existing vaccines.
You know, and because obviously, from what I understand, again, not being somebody who's not with a scientific or medical background, of course, any protection is better than no protection.
Mhm.
And the more people who are vaccinated, the less likely it is that the virus can mutate.
Yeah,
So
but,
that's sort of my understanding.
it is exactly that. What you do is you have a kind of the interaction between a pathogen and a population is really a permanent interaction, and at a point in time you will reach equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
What is to be understood is that for a new virus stepping in a naive population, this equilibrium can take years,
Mm-hmm.
5, 6, 10, 25 or more years.
Is it just
For
a case
some viruses, for instance, like HPV or a few of them, measles, the evolution is for thousands of years. So we have the very final version of the virus. So to design a vaccine for this situation, as you have the final version of the virus, there is no more variants. You have the optimal vaccine at once. This is not the situation with the COVID vaccine. In the COVID vaccine, what we face today is an evolution of the COVID vaccine in the human population, but we are certain that it will be additional variants, possibly not allowed anymore, because we already generated a number of variants, at least 4 generations. So we still have a lot to gain in evolution on the virus side. So this is why we have to be careful in terms of to which point we will have still the same situation. But anyway, what is sure is that having a higher number of people vaccinated will increase the pressure on the virus and will definitely slow down its evolution. No, but I'm really a vaccine fan, because
as am I. I'm sure you'll be glad to know. I'm very much pro not dying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very much pro not killing my grandparents.
I agree with you, and I'm not
most of the time.
I'm not a pro-disease person.
Somebody did ask me, said, why are you getting the vaccine? You're young. I said, yeah, but I can still get it.
Mm-hmm.
I can still get the virus. I said, because the point is, and this is the point that people make, that you don't get the vaccine for yourself necessarily. You get it for other people. That's sort of the entire point of herd immunity, is that you come together.
Yeah, we are stepping in a different territory where I am definitely not an expert, which is the ethic part of it.
And I don't want to quiz you on ethics.
Yeah, because the debate is raging on this point. About do you have to vaccinate you for the others? And for what I'm
doing it for myself as well. I don't want to get sick.
Yeah, exactly. But you just have to do it for yourself. As an individual, I think for what I follow, the answer is clear. As an individual, you do it for yourself all the time.
Mhm.
The debate at the collective level must be taken by health authorities.
I don't think that I don't think that the messaging should be positioned around shame. I don't think it should sort of be like
No, I agree with
you,
you.
I
I
don't think it
agree with
should be
you.
like if you don't take it, then you're a bad person. I think that the best way to encourage people to be inoculated is to just say, you know, this is going to benefit you. You may feel a bit rough, maybe for a day or so, or however long. You may there's a chance you could have maybe severe side effects. But you know, the vaccine's been tested, it's been worked on by experts at the top of their game, you know, and you've got so much more to lose not having it than you do to have it. And then just throw in at the end, it's also good for the people around you, the people that you love.
Exactly. I am exactly on this position. I think you should vaccinate yourself for your self-interest, and it is as simple as that. You
But
have
I would
you
be
have a
lying if
better.
I would be lying if I said that sort of my family, you know, the people that I love, I would be lying if I said that they don't come into my mind. You know, I would be lying if I, you know, didn't say that. I want to kind of just go to routine immunization because I'm going to let you go in a bit, doctor, I promise. Though I could talk to you all day. But I want to go to routine immunization. And I want to ask you, are you concerned that while many countries have made tremendous progress with their COVID inoculation drives, are you concerned about inoculation campaigns against pre-existing infectious diseases? Are you worried about progress they're sliding? And if so, are we going to be able to recoup that progress anytime soon?
Once again, the answer should be specific disease per disease. It's true that there is a major disruption for some routine programming in immunization in some parts of the world, in Southeast Asia and in Africa. Uh, so it is almost certain that it will be paid in terms of increased mortality, but very likely for a somewhere short period of time, which means that the excess will last for some months, but it should not exceed 1 year. Should the programs are resuming normally very quickly. This is the first point. The second point is that in a strange way, some of the disease have benefited from the COVID episodes by two ways. The first one is that some structures that were used for the polio eradication program, for example, have been used by the countries in terms of COVID emergency response and have proven to be very efficient. And this is absolutely critical because it shows that the health systems are more and more resilient. And I think this is a very, very good news. A last point, which was absolutely not anticipated, at least by me, was the fact that the social distanciation and all the barriers that were disseminated everywhere across all countries have beneficial side effects. When you have an increased hand hygiene, it has been shown that some diseases were almost disappearing, and even some of vaccine preventable diseases like rotaviruses or, of course, polio. And one of the possible best side effects of the COVID situation could be that the wild polio virus could have been disappearing. So let's still wait for a while, but there is pros and cons in this debate. I suspect we may observe an increased mortality for a short period of time and additional benefits, but possibly not to the same extent.
I was banking on you saying that everything's terrible, but it's a bit more balanced than that.
Yeah, and it's and I'm not sure that you will have the right figures.
But it's an but honestly, that's an interesting perspective, and it's not one that I've heard before. I don't think. It is an interesting perspective that there are pros and cons. I mean, for me, I think the pros and cons of the pandemic, the cons have, of course, been the horrendous sickness, the loss of life, disruption to the economy and society as we know it, or knew it. But there have been pros in terms of sort of waking people up to the fact that health systems need to be more robustly resourced and funded, showing us what is possible in terms of R&D, research and development. It's an interesting perspective, and I'm glad that you used that. Final question before I let you go is vaccine equity, because that's a huge issue right now because of the disproportionate access that wealthier countries have to COVID-19 vaccines versus lower and middle income countries. For the people watching and listening, why is vaccine equity and equitable access to vaccines important in a crisis like this?
Because the COVID has shown that we are all solidaire. The infectious disease do not know frontier, and it has been the demonstration that some threats can emerge inadvertently, and we are all inhabitants of the same planet, and we are all belonging to the same species. So I believe that in that sense, we are all in the same boat, and to believe that we could protect ourselves exclusively is the wrong message. It's because it's false. So the existing models have failed because the demonstration is made that the US had been incapacity to do it in approximately 6 months when they got the vaccine. European, it will take 6 months more. And for the rest of the world, some of them will never have access to this vaccine within 2 years. So our current governance first is not working, and our resources are not working, and our priorities are not the right ones.
Well, it's a somewhat somber note to end on, but it's obviously important to highlight that message. I think the phrase that I hear more often than not is the pandemic's not over here until it's over everywhere.
Definitely.
But I mean, we can hope. I mean, there was a significant commitment at the G7 summit. We COVAX, I know it's sort of stumbled a bit, but the COVAX facility is sort of starting to ship vaccine doses to the countries that need them. One can hope, but of course it's incumbent upon all of us to sort of hold them, to hold leaders to account and say, come on, let's get the world vaccinated, not just our own back garden, so to speak. Dr. Calmet, it's lovely to see you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Kieran. It was a pleasure, and I thank you for your questions, because certainly the last one is the most important, and I think to have as many opportunities to raise it is is something to be done. So congratulations for that, and thank you for that.
Honestly, my pleasure, Doctor. Before you go, in 2 sentences or less, what's your message to somebody out there right now, wherever in the world they may be, who's been offered a COVID-19 vaccine, but is either refusing to take it or is undecided about whether or not they're going to take it? 2 sentences or less, what's your message to that person?
The first message is please take it, because it's for you an opportunity, and for your community it's really a chance not to be missed. And the second is don't be ashamed to be vaccine hesitant, because I think it's natural. We have to be critics in front of every situation, but please take the right decision based on the right data.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Merci, Joël.
Merci, Kiran. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Au revoir. From Why Is This a Podcast? I'm Kieran Watts. I somehow host this thing. The man is Dr. Joël Calmet. I'll see you next time. I'll be speaking to Lenore Cooney on US politics and more. From Why Is This a Podcast and from our team, we love you. Goodbye.